And now, Chapter 31 of The Last Boy on Earth. He doesn't think, he feels. Joe successfully broke into the lower chamber of the bridge tower after nearly 3 hours of drilling. They swung the two massive doors inward and entered, the echoes of every little sound they made flying in a cacophony throughout the structure. He was Howard Carter breaking into Tutankhamun's tomb. He was Indiana Jones discovering the Ark of the Covenant. They all turned on their flashlights and entered. There was an elevator shaft that ran up the very center into the spire's dark heights and large empty spaces surrounding it. There were some informative plaques on the wall along with pipe and conduits that ran to steel boxes mounted on the walls. This was the control center of the building. Joe had the biggest flashlight, and he directed its beam up the shaft that led to the observation deck. The light ended in the darkness, revealing nothing but mystery. "Folks," Joe began, "you are now in the tallest public bridge observatory in the world, and the first bridge observatory in what was the United States of America. Truly, one of the wonders of the abandonment. It's 490 feet up that Stanley elevator shaft before we make it to the top. Or we can take the stairs." "Stairs? I thought we were going to get the power going," Brady asked, not happy at the prospect of climbing that endless spire. "That's the next order of business. I'm going to need your eyes, Dr. Grindle. Mine aren't so sharp anymore. Can't see a thing. Diabetes has nearly blinded me. We're going to see about the generator. Hopefully it still works, and there's a supply of diesel." Bjorn sent a message to Brady. His manner of expression was still somewhat limited, his grammar childish and awkward, but the mind behind it was keen and clever. "Something here," Bjorn sent. "Smell it. A dog, not a dog. Fanged, more, clawed before, different, bigger, stronger." Brady put the toolbox he was carrying down and went out into the sunlight, looking for the direction of the thought. "Where are you?" asked Brady. "Edge of water. Look to wide water." "You're downriver near the bay?" A confused thought was all the bear could send in reply. "Is he alone or with others?" asked Brady. "Alone." The last time Brady had seen Fenris was at the destruction of Grendel at the riverside near Mount Hope, at the battle. Dr. Grindle insisted that the monster hadn't perished, only diminished, and was still able to infect a host and possess it. Where had the body of Fenris gone on that fateful night, he wondered? Perhaps the were-dog hadn't simply crawled off to lick his wounds and die. Perhaps his old master took advantage of his weakened state and possessed him now. "Come back to the bridge," Brady sent to Bjorn. "No," was the berserker's reply. "He might attack you. You'll be safer with us," Brady sent in the imperative. "Guard you all," was Bjorn's only reply. Brady put two and two together, and observation mode kicked in again. He was going to have to do something soon. He needed to speak with Dr. Grindle. Brady approached the doctor quietly from the back, and when he spoke, he frightened him. "I'm sorry," Brady offered. "I didn't mean to scare you." "Oh yes, sorry. Just as well. I've always worried that he'll, come back," muttered the doctor in frustration. "Yeah, I feel the same way," he replied. And then, with a firmness to his voice, he said, "Dr. Grindle, we need to talk." The doctor looked at him askance and turned his gaze back to the river emptying into the bay. "About what?" "About Grendel. About what it was like to be possessed." The doctor turned and gave Brady a horrified look. "Whatever for? Why do you need to know what it was like? I don't like to talk about it." "If Grendel comes back, I intend to fight him, and I need to know everything about him, how he thinks." The doctor was shaken by this request, and his face was ribboned with the pain of recall that Brady suggested. He remained tight-lipped and silent. "Look, I know you've suffered, Dr. Grindle. We all have. But we have to make contact with other humans, and if Grendel comes back, he won't stop till we're all dead. Every last human on the planet." "What do you want to know?" the doctor said quietly with a tremor in his voice. "What was it like in there? What was it like to be possessed?" The doctor began to pace back and forth from one edge of the rampart to the other, making Brady nervous lest he take too many steps and vault himself over the side. "It was like being in a deep, dark prison. I was in the blackness and I could hear echoes. I was very often tired. I could catch glimpses of things. If I concentrated, I could break through and see the world again, even talk." "I know," Brady said. "You spoke to me in the cemetery." "Yes, I remember," he said. "Did you fight him while you were in there?" asked Brady. Dr. Grindle shook his weary head. "Not exactly. I was in a place, wandering, lost. I don't know where I was. I thought I'd died and gone to, some other place. But how could that be? I wasn't aware of my body's movements. It was a dream world. Brady, a nightmare world. That's what it was. There were things in there." "Things?" "Oh, I don't know. Items, artifacts. Like a museum or something. I couldn't tell if I was imagining it all or if it was real." "So you were free to wander around in there like you were in a place?" "Yes, but it was a labyrinth. There was no way out. The only thing I could do after a while was just sit down and try to forget. Do nothing. Cease to think or feel or care. Start to die inside. So that's what I did." "Can you think of anything that I should know about it if I have to face him again?" Well, the troubled man looked out over the water and stood a while in thought before he said, "I know that he's frightened. I could feel it, like I can feel this breeze right now. He's frightened and angry all the time, not rational. He doesn't think. He feels." From the Journal of Brady Smith. This might be my last entry, so I'll put it down as I remember it. It was a long, slow ride to the obelisks, otherwise known as the Penobscot Narrows Bridge. If anyone ever reads this in years to come, it occurs to me that I ought to take a moment and explain what I know about this bridge. It connects Bucksport and the mainland with Verona Island in the middle of Penobscot Bay. It's not the longest bridge in the state, but it is unique because it's so different. See, it's the highest structure in Maine, with two tall towers like ancient Egyptian obelisks, with long cables that suspend the bed of the bridge really high over the bay and the Penobscot River. There are only 3 of these bridges in the whole world, and to be honest, they all look like they come from some futuristic science fiction movie. It looks like something the time traveler from H.G. Wells' The Time Machine would have seen in the distance when he first stepped into the future. Honestly, I think it's the coolest building I've ever been in. To think that Maine has something like this has always seemed a little out of place, like having a skyscraper in the middle of the forest. There's an elevator that goes all the way up to the top and a stairway as well. I knew that if we couldn't get the elevator going, it was going to be some hard trudging up those stairs to get the equipment to the observation deck. But our wizard did it. It requires a lot of power to pull something that far up. But he hooked a large generator to it that we found at an equipment rental place in Brewer. All he had to do was connect the main panel and it kicked into action. I wouldn't want to get stuck on that thing. Joe put together the mother of all transmitters, but man, it's heavy. In the end, we took the radio equipment from the Coast Guard ship at the dock in Bangor and broke into the tower at Bangor International Airport for the rest. We've got 2 portable rolling generators. Kaylee keeps telling us that we'll need more than 2 and that we'll need more power, but when we ask why, she just says that she has a way to get it. The observation deck is a glassed area at the top of one of the 2 towers that supports the bridge. From up there, you can see for miles and miles, the highest building where humans can walk around and see all 4 directions in the state. From up here, you can see the whole world, or at least enough of it to satisfy a traveler's mind. Joe says that Kaylee's idea of using the entire bridge as the antenna was genius. All we had to do was tap into the cabling and turn it on. But nothing is ever that easy. I sure hope Kaylee's secret answer to powering this works, whatever that is. The 2 generators Joe tells me we'll do nicely, but she just shakes her head and walks off quiet. I don't know what's come over her. Kaylee was only beginning to understand the words of the river woman. She remembered being Kaylee, being a child, and growing up in Brewer. She had photographs to prove it, along with all the paraphernalia that accompanied a normal childhood, closet full of toys and albums full of photos. Still, she was beginning to think about what she was before she'd been born, and that was just weird and perhaps even wrong. Could there be a time and a place before a person was born, she wondered? The river woman called her daughter, and by another name, a name that sounded familiar to her, Charon. Wasn't Charon the name of the ferryman of the dead over the river Styx in Greek mythology? She understood that all the dead of the abandonment were waiting on the far shore, their blinking eyes staring over the river towards them, single-minded, longing, and true. Would they wait forever? If they had to. They wouldn't move past the shore and towards the undiscovered country that lay beyond until Brady and she had set things right. Apparently that was her job, and somehow she knew it in a bone-deep way. She was the conduit. She was the pathway. Kaylee walked the world with a new understanding of the way of things, and she needed to have a long talk with Brady. There was the nagging sense that Grendel was nearby, crouching in the shadows and growing stronger every minute. If she could be both a human teenager and an immortal daughter of death, with all that entailed, then Brady could be more than he appeared. So could Grendel. How had she managed to avoid the monster so long in the hospital? How had she known what his next move would be every time? The world had changed. She began to comprehend her place in it and how her own transformation figured into the final equation. But what of Grendel? Was he her negative counterpart? Did Brady have some mysterious power over them all, only now awakening in him? From the edge of the forest, a wolf-like form hunkered down and watched with keen eye the doings of a small band of humans on the bridge in the distance. If anyone had bothered to look skyward, they might have seen a black shape take wing and travel back inland, towards Brewer and the seemingly sleeping statue of General Joshua Chamberlain and the Library of Alexandria. End of chapter.